Hello and welcome to Comic Book Herald's Creannotators. I'm Dave Busing, founder and editor-in-chief of comicbookherald.com. Today I am joined by the creative team of Phenomena, the Golden City of Eyes, a new all-ages book out from Abrams Comics Arts. It'll be out September 13th in bookstores, wherever you get your comics. It is great. We're going to talk about that today. I'm joined by Brian Michael Bendis and Andre Lima Araujo. I am incredibly excited to talk about this book. So Phenomena is the story of an unlikely duo. We got Bolden, an energetic young boy, and Spike, a robotic cypher with a mysterious past, journeying through this transformed, futuristic Earth, questing together against the odds, coming across all sorts of wild stuff along the way. It's one of my favorite books of 2022 and a high recommendation for you to check out. We'll have links and all that fun stuff in the show notes, but what I want to do, of course, is talk with the creators of this work. Andre, I'm going to start with you. So I've been looking into the creative process that you both have shared of this book, and it definitely sounds different, right? It sounds a bit unlike, I think, what a lot of comics fans are used to. Were you surprised by the way it sounded like a very art first, right? A very art first, design first kind of process. Were you surprised by the way the story got shaped once it got into Brian's hands as Phenomena progressed? What was that like?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the key bits of the process that me and Brian we keep surprising each other because we allow each other to pick the pieces that the other one is leaving behind. We present like a bunch of stuff to each other, and then the other works with it, and that's really the basic rule. And yeah, you were right in one aspect. It really started with a chat between me and Brian, and then like we are supposed to present each other our own ideas because I have a lot of pitches that have not been published. Brian, of course, has a lot as well. I sent him my stuff. He never sent me his stuff because he saw my drawings and he said, "Let's do all of this." And then he like pitched me an idea with 2 lines in an email, and then I started drawing. And basically we went with that. I presented him then a bunch of characters and places and all that without even having much of a plot at all. And Brian picked all of that stuff up and he started writing. And I thought that the process that he allowed for this book to happen, because usually a writer with the status that Brian has usually comes with an idea and presents it to an artist and tries to move a story forward like that. And I thought that it was incredibly brave of him and very. I thought that I think that the results were paid off because it allowed for like a really unique book and a really unique creative experience for both of us. Because then I sent all of this stuff to Brian. He started writing based on the stuff that I sent him, and he would tell me, character X from page that I had sent him is this one that appears on this page, and then he would give them voices that I'd never imagined that they would have. That would change the way that I would draw them, in the page. So like this back and forth keeps going. Even right now, we were working on volume 2. I have 20 something pages penciled already, and it's like the process remains the same, and it's quite an adventure as the final product is. Our own experience as creators is quite an adventure because I never know what he's going to send me, and he never knows what I'm going to send.
Andre, with the you said you're seeing the voices come back in, and it's a little bit different than you're
Yeah,
anticipating.
yeah,
How can you think of any specific examples where like
yeah,
certain characters like
yeah.
have shifted, by the end of the book?
Oh, absolutely. Like the for example, for the main characters, we have 3 main characters, but the ones that Brian asked for were a boy and a creature. That was his description, which is Spike and Bolden,
Yeah.
of course. And then I added a third one, Matilda. And
Hmm.
like for Spike and the kid, and for any character really, Brian had no description other than the one that I just told you. So I drew them as you see them in the book, and then I sent it to him. And the way that he wrote his speech and the way that they talk to each other, the first time that Bolden and Spike speak to each other is quite hilarious. And like that bit, it was all there from the beginning. And that influenced greatly the way that I animated them. So I started drawing them exactly with the same design, but the pose that they were in, the way that they were walking or looking at each other, was very much dictated by the way that Brian wrote the speech for them.
Brian, I was going to ask you, so this process is quite unique. Do you feel like there's a new chapter for words for pictures that needs to be added based on the phenomena process?
Well, yeah, well, I am working on another textbook that dives into the specifically the art of creation and how every single thing has its own kind of builds its own like organism around it, like both how everyone communicates with each other, how every creation needs its own kind of special love and tender care, and what I think phenomena represents to me is a perfect example of how you can't just figure a way to do things and that everything fits into that thing. Some things would, but I have found not only in phenomena but with Pearl and the ones which I'm doing with Jacob, every one of them has their own energy, their own much like all your friends. You have friends that have different energy. Like, there's some friends that are loud and crazy, and there are friends that are just the most, relaxing. Just being around them it calms you. The collaborations can be a lot like that too. Like every one of them kind of brings their own energy into your life, and you celebrate them when they're right in front of you, and you do the best you can with it. So, but yeah, but for phenomena, I will say I use this reference, and I know it dates me terribly, but when I was in college, Frank Miller introduced all of us to an illustrator named G.F. Darrow with a book called Hardboiled. And I remember because obviously Frank is the most important person of everyone in my generation. Everything he did got like analyzed and looked into. And he talked at great length about how discovering Geoff's world and how he did things and how he realized that it was his job, unlike other projects that he'd been on, it was his job to kind of prompt Darrow into doing whatever the hell Darrow does, right? And so it's not technically a script so much as drawing prompts. There's a series of drawing prompts that bring about a plot. I know that sounds a weird thing to say, but I use that as my, well, they did that, and obviously there's a vague connection between Darrow and Andre and how they produce work and the detail in which they bring to the world. So it occurred to me that that's my job here, is to create a list of prompts and to get the hell out of his way, and then come back in and do whatever I can to just keep the ball rolling along in the best tempo it can be. And goddamn, if you ever see a page where I'm just like blah 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 blah, then I'm really doing everyone a disservice. And so it was really about servicing the story and the art as much as possible, and using Hard Boiled, which is completely opposite in theme to our book, as a template.
That's an interesting touch point, definitely. Well, and
Yeah.
this book definitely reflects that. I mean, it's such a showcase for your art, Andre, in so many just awesome, amazing ways. But then, I think for fans of you, Brian, who are familiar with your work, right? I think a lot of fans are very familiar with this snappy back and forth dialogue, and that's there, and you get the fun dynamics between the characters, but it doesn't read like Pearl, right? It's
No.
not that
Yeah.
style at all. You're clearly such a fan of Andre's work, which I found really delightful, both in reading and also just in interviews and such. One thing I'm curious with, a lot of Andre's work, like particularly like A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance, coming out now with yourself and Rick Remender, very violent, very gory stuff, and there's hope in there and there's beauty in there. But mostly kind of a lot of like action and violence and stuff. What was it about his work that said to you, I can find something all ages and super hopeful?
Well, that's interesting because that wasn't the goal. The goal wasn't to be all ages and super hopeful. The goal was to let's see what comes out, and whatever comes out, we'll market. And God bless comics that it's open for everything from the darkest heart to the most whimsical, all ages book. And that's obviously one of the things we love about comics. So I have learned through experience on every collaboration, and even on the stuff you're doing work for hire, is don't label it. Let's see what it is when we're done, right? And then you start marketing, and that way genre expectation, all that stuff kind of gets pushed aside for hopefully some sort of original energy, right? Like if you start, the minute you start labeling things, you can really start strangling them, and particularly in those early days of
Mm-hmm.
creation. And particularly when Andre's, obviously everyone can see, he's throwing all this fantastical imagery, but it's not fantasy, it's not sci-fi, it's something else. So, all right, let's not be so quick to label is what I did. But then what happened was we're about 25 pages in, and the energy of it. I think I even had one draft where there was swearing, and then I was like, yeah, no, it's not, it's not help, it's not edgier or whatever. So
Yeah.
we're looking at it, and then the other thing that happened, and this is a little bit of a privilege, and I hope everyone will forgive me, but like I didn't set out to become a YA author, but over the course of the years with Miles and Naomi and Ironheart, I have quite a few YA titles like on the bookshelf at Barnes and Noble, like in the YA section. And I love that section so much. And to find my work included in it with Raina and Captain Underpants and all these amazing tentpole things, I went, oh, hey, I'm a YA author. I thought I was a crime author, but I'm a YA author. Okay, well, if that's the case, and we have this thing here that, yeah, it could be labeled YA. And even the book I did with Alex Maleev called Scarlet, which is a much darker piece, was labeled in the YA listing in the library awards, and I was like, and that was the first time I'd seen it labeled as YA, and I went, oh, yeah, that's right. I guess that is too. She's a teenager. That's YA. That's right. So I'm not thinking about the labels until it's time, and then here we were, and I'm looking at that bookshelf with Miles and Naomi and Riri on it, and I'm like, all right, let's see if Bolden and Spike go on the shelf. Let's see if they have a place. So we reached out to our lit agent Janine, and I showed them what we were building, and they sent it out, and we immediately got offers from people, and Abrams the best fit by far, and certainly an amazing choice that we made. Now we have some perspective on it, and yeah, so it sort of is a YA book, and it is an all ages book, and but also I love what I love about it. It occurred to me halfway through that this would be a book that I could read with my kids, but also I could just enjoy comics with it, just enjoy it as a piece of comic art, and both things at once is something I certainly would like to buy. So I'm thrilled that that's the way this was coming together. So as soon as that I saw that as the two things that this is, leaned into it heavy everywhere we could.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's awesome. No,
Yeah,
and
no,
I
I
think that's
remember.
interesting that you point that out. Oh, go ahead, Andre. Go ahead.
No, just to reinforce what Brian was saying, like this was a completely organic thing that happened. It became a YA book, because I even remember Brian was saying it was not cursing. We were like halfway through the book, and we had a character that was showing the finger. And when
Okay.
it was Brian that saw it, and he said, I don't feel this. And for me, because I was drawing it, I didn't notice it like he did, because he saw all the pages,
Yeah.
and I'm just drawing a bit by bit. So I didn't see it. And then in the end, of course, I could see it. Like once I had everything put together, yeah, he was right, and I redrew that bit. It is the only thing that has been redrawn in the book, and it was one. Yeah, it's the only bit. It's because Brian was right on picking the tone, but at that time we were not sure about what we were doing. It was so we never said YA to each other. We just started putting the cussing aside and those little things aside, because we felt like this doesn't fit. And even on character designs, there were some of the characters and places that I drew for the first volume before Brian even wrote, we never used them because they were not, they were a bit too dark, or they a bit too to the science fiction bit, or they didn't fit. So that's the organic transformation that the book had, that was really something, a life of its own.
It's one of my favorite parts of it, and it's of the process where you're like, you do feel like it's you're just carrying you're carrying a bunch of, oh, I'm carrying them, I got all the bowls, I'm carrying all the bowls at once, and then you do get to put them down safely, but the whole time you're like, oh, okay, I hope I can get to the end of this metaphor without messing it up. Anyway, so but okay, so it's weird for me too, because like I live in a house that the F word built, like Jessica Jones and the F word, like made me. So for me to think, maybe not on this one was a switch of gears for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's interesting. Well, and and you find kind of fun ways to do the same thing, right? Like the use of
Hmm.
knuck knots, and like you find, okay, we're going to have inventive curse words, right? But it doesn't quite have the same thing. It doesn't mess with the tone. It's
Yep.
interesting to hear you both describe, that was never the plan, because I do think reading this, you can kind of feel that in the sense that like it doesn't feel like what the YA label might mean to a lot of folks. There's a lot of nuance in it. There's a lot of complexity. I think just craft wise, just the way the story is told, like it's pretty it's pretty hyperkinetic, but also like if you're a 7-year old just reading your first book, like this would be a weird book to be like, hey, it's like, your first learning thing. No, but when you say all ages, it can mean preteens, it can mean teenagers, it can read, I'm reading it with a teenager, right? Those sorts of things. But adults can definitely enjoy it too, in that best case, like Pixar,
Hmm.
perfect world of true all ages, like that it's shooting for that level. And I appreciate that about it.
Well,
And oh, go ahead,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, please go.
I was gonna say, as you settled on the voice for Phenomena, how do you think your kids, we're kind of talking about being dads before this, how do you think your kids sort of shaped the experiences and the stories you wanted to tell here?
Well, I mean, what a wonderful question, and I will tell you, I look. So I'm of an age where I saw, when I was first in mainstream comics, they were quite shunned in the mainstream. There was still that comics, and I remember my daughter like brought one of my comics to school, and the teacher was not pleasant about it, and not because it was mine, because like, and now here we are years later, and not only are comics allowed in school, they're celebrated in school and being fought for to be kept in school. And so it's quite the shift. And then inside that shift is that YA section at the bookstore that we talked about, right? So here I am in Portland, where there's Powell's, the biggest bookstore in the world. I'll be appearing there next Tuesday. And there's this enormous YA section that did not exist 10 years ago. It did not exist. And it is amazing. But inside that shelf, there's a lot of copycat stuff. There's a lot of people doing Reina or doing Captain Underpants, and I get it. I understand all of the variants of the marketplace and how once something's a hit, there's 50 people trying to make that hit. But there also is, an audience that is reading this stuff that is now has a base language of what comics is to them, and they're gonna want other stuff. They're gonna be looking around, and there's gonna be, and yes, there will be, Marvel and DC and Dark Horse and all kinds of image stuff for them to look at as well. But there's also going to be some people who aren't connected to that thread, and but are looking at this. And then there's will be books like Phenomena, and there's quite a few others that will hopefully, take them to the next stage in their reading and understanding and appreciation of the art form. So that was my
Yeah.
feeling. Is that there's a lot of stuff out there that's like that, so we should be other than. And also, when you see a lot of people doing the same thing, I tend to go the other way. I tend to go, okay, that's not to be like contrary, but that's being done. Whoever wants that, they got plenty of it. So there's no reason to do that unless I was dying to do, my version of Catboy. I just, no, this is what we want to do, and it ends up if properly placed on the bookshelf, it could really, hopefully grab someone's attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It actually reminds me a little bit, the experience reminds me a bit of like Bone, and I wasn't there as a kid.
Oh, thank you, thank
But
you.
just yeah, no, and it is like it's said with the highest praise, because it is like I adore Bone, and you hear that from everyone who reads it, right? Of any age, is like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, Bone, it's so great. And then of course the other piece of it though is black and white, right? And which is
yeah.
feels actually like a fairly bold choice in all ages. Andre, did releasing in black and white make you nervous? Did you have any apprehension?
No,
Or were you always game?
no. I was not apprehensive, and it didn't make me nervous for various reasons. One thing about black and white, it was Brian's idea, which I really appreciated because it didn't occur to me at the time to propose this to be black and white, but I did a book a few years ago that I wrote called Men Plus. I wanted it to be black and white, but they said at the time, the market does it's less. Well, the book didn't sell anything anyway, so it might as well have been black and white at the time. But I wanted to do it black and white because my reading experience and my growing up experience with comics is very different from Brian, and they will talk well because I grew up reading European, Japanese, and American books, all with enormous quantities of all of them. I have a bunch of stuff from every market, and from the Japanese market, as we all know, it's all stuff black and white. So for me, that's the language of comics, and those books are probably the ones that I respond to the most, as people familiar with my work will tell. So black and white for me is as much a language of comics as it is color. You just need to utilize it slightly different. And Brian knew my stuff because all the pitches that I sent him were black and white, some with off tones, and he had seen my stuff. Our brief collaboration at DC before we started doing this, I sent him stuff with tones as well. So we saw all that and he proposed it to me, and I immediately said yes. I never thought twice about it. And I think that it is a bit of a more visceral experience. It leaves a bit more for the reader to imagine. So it gives a bit more room for the story to breathe. Like the hints are there, if it's dark or if it's light, in terms of brightness of the day, if it's cloudy, if it's not, if there's strong shadows or not. I leave all the hints there. There is color on cover for you to carry your imagination throughout the story. This is a colorful story, but there is no color in it. Like it's that kind of deal that we are making here. But I really enjoy the idea of doing it like that. And it's another testament of how much we didn't think of this as a YA book. Because if you think about YA book, of course, you need to have color, right, for kids, because that's the immediate, like Brian was saying, we start immediately strangling ourselves into these boxes that we think that it need to be, but it doesn't need to be anything like that. Kids nowadays, in America in particular, all of them are buying manga. They are all black and
yeah.
Nobody buys manga in color because they don't exist, most likely. So like we did all the artistic approach that we had to do to stay true to the story that we were making. And everything that we did, every design, every decision that we have made, I felt completely comfortable with them because they all felt like this is the right choice for this story. So I was very, very excited when Brian proposed it to me, and I immediately said yes. And I think it's the right choice for this because it will stand out. It stands out. There's nothing like it because very few people do black and white, and very even less of those that make black and white like I did here, like we did with the tones and the shadows, all of that stuff. So I hope people enjoy it.
Yeah.
And also, it occurred to me that I was in Dragon Con. We showed a bunch in Dragon Con, Andre. It was
Nice.
pretty cool. And
Nice.
it was very nice. And this is still early goings for us with this book. So it was very exciting. And someone said, "Oh, I should buy two. I should buy one just to read and one to color." And I go, "I'm good with that. I'm totally okay with that."
That's great. I'd love to see that actually.
Yeah, I know. I honestly, I was mad I didn't think about myself. Damn, that's a good idea. But the real, for me, just to add to this, I came up in the '90s in comics where there was a lot of black and white independent comics, and I was making black and white crime graphic novels for the entirety of the decade. And for the entirety of the decade, I was shunned and told by people, "Oh, is this not finished?" Like black and white was looked at as lesser than. And yes, it was cheaper to produce for newsprint and everything like that. So that's a lot of the reasons why we were in black and white. But we were embracing the format. We were embracing the form of black and white totally. But it was always looked at as lesser than, and I never understood it. It was fully completed to me, but people would always say that. So watching comics evolve to a place where that wasn't the way people saw things anymore, it did make me want to go back into a black and white book. Oh, okay, so that was one of them. But also, really on an aesthetic level, I would see Andre's work in black and white like you've just experienced, and it got me. It really got under my skin, and I love his collaboration with Chris. I loved our collaboration. Chris is an amazing colorist who I will work with many, many times. But just in this instance, it's just every time I saw the work in black and white, it just really got under my skin, like on another level. And I'm like, that's gotta count for something. It's gotta. There's got to be other people going to feel this way about it, and so I was so happy that our partners at Abrams agreed, and we had a conversation about it. Like, yeah, it's
Sure.
It's black and white. What do you think? and them understanding immediately why we were going for that, and for all the reasons Andre just described, uh, we went for it. But I will say, regardless of that, this was one of the most meticulous publishing endeavors of my entire life. This every single page of this book was gone over by our publisher and our editors for maximum exposure, like just to see the image was perfectly laid out on the page. So it was a lot given into how this book was published and printed. So, and I will say that was not the case in the 90s.
I mean, this book it was quite an experience to do. Like Brian said, like once we had it in Abrams' hands, like with Charlie and Andy, our designer, I had a bunch of meetings with her, even for preparation for Volume 2, for example. Ran into some problems with printing the gray tones, because they are not really gray, they are dots of black, and the density and the size of them, it's what makes different shades of gray. So for a printer to pick that, we had to go through the process and realize how had I made it so that they could print it properly. So they had all of that care, and like Charlie, our editor, completely embraced the book as it was. And it's really, for us creators, it was very, very, very good to have that feeling that that they had our backs,
Yeah, that's awesome. I've been really impressed by Abrams over the past year plus or so. There's that. I don't know if either you have checked this out. There's Alex Ross's Fantastic Four Full Circle, which just came out.
No,
and Charlie, the books that come out are. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Charlie sent me a packet this week with their latest books, and I have the Fantastic Four book as well from Alex Ross, and I was just marveled by it, because I always love Alex Ross, but I think this is my favorite stuff that he has ever done. To see stuff like that, and the production of the books is just outstanding.
So you'll notice on the back of the book is a quote by me on the Fantastic Four book. I read it last year. I read it way before everyone else got a shot. So I've not only been living with, holy crap, Alex Ross's masterpiece is about to come out, but we're part of the lineup that includes his masterpiece.
That's nice.
I did call Andre last year and go, oh, we gotta roll up our sleeves, man. This lineup is intense. This is, but I will say it made the offer to come to Abrams all that much more of an honor when I saw the other books that they were producing. I was honestly, as a fan of the more classic stuff they're doing and look at what they think comics should be, I was very, very honored that they included
this. It's cool stuff. Andre, so you got A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance this year. We got Phenomena. Both these books really blew me away.
Thanks.
I've been loving both of them in their very different ways, right? It feels like you've really leveled up on these books. Do you feel that way? Like, do you feel like you've hit a new stride in your career?
Yes, absolutely.
I can answer for you if you can.
No, I can. I don't have any problem with that. I do feel that. But there's one thing, like, I do feel that in a way, but maybe not in the same way that you do, because like the stuff that Brian saw from my pitches, I think it's already on this kind of level, because some of stuff is a bit older, but it's already, I don't mean the quality of it per se, but I mean more like my expression as a creator. There's a lot of science fiction stuff, there's historical stuff, so I have varied interests in comics, and I am as much interested, and I am as much into Phenomena, which is like right now we know a YA book, as I am into the very violent world of Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. Like I didn't feel like I had to shift anything inside of me to. I did those books back to back. I did Phenomena, then I did Righteous Thirst, and now I'm back into Phenomena, and like so. For me, this is my most natural expression, what you're seeing, which is created on books. So I feel like I've been trying to do this for a long time. I had all these pitches, piled up, and I was trying to, and like in my career, this has always happened since the beginning, which is like I try, and then all of a sudden I have 5 opportunities all at once, and I need to pick. Like when I started working with Brian, like a couple of months later, something that I was trying to make happen for like 2 years just happened, which was one publisher, one of the big independent publishers said to me, of Creator and Comics, said to me, we want a book of yours, send us a pitch, like whatever you want, we will publish it. And I had to postpone it, obviously, because I was working with Brian already, doing Phenomenal, and with Rick, which was great. Like me and Rick, we had been back and forth for the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years trying to find a hole in the schedule. And we finally did find it. But like on the technical side of things, I think that when a creator does create their own books, or when a writer writes them, or when an artist draws them, I think that your artistic ability is really pushed to the max then, because you will be drawing and designing everything. So not only I was waiting for this opportunity, but the fact that I was drawing creator books for the past 3 years by now has really shaped up my abilities. And now I've noticed, particularly on volume 2 of Phenomena, I felt this throughout volume 1, and then with Righteous 30 and volume 2 of Phenomena that I'm drawing right now, that I draw much faster than I used to. And I need to erase much less, for example. And I think all of that comes from really have to be on my max level every day for every page, because all of this needs to come from me. I have nowhere to rely on, from designs. There are no preview designs. There is nothing. It's creation completely from zero, with Brian, of course, and with Rick, of course. But from a visual point, like both of them completely trusted me with everything that I've done. And for me, that meant the world, because as a creator, you are working with two of the best writers, two of the best selling, best creating. Their stuff is just marvelous. And to have their complete trust, they're treating me like an equal from the get-go, like no questions. There's nothing there. Our relation is perfect as creators. Was like a great feeling for me, because I am doing what I wanted to do the most, which is create their own stuff, and I always had the ambition to do with the best writers. And I have a list. Brian and Rick are now, I can put the thing over their name. I hope to work with both of them for many years, but and there is the stuff that I'm eventually alone whenever I have the chance. But I'm very happy. And yeah, like you said, I feel like I am where I wanted to be. And it's perfect, because this year it's my 10th year as a professional. So like I'm pretty happy that for the last 3 already I've been doing exactly what I wanted to do.
That's pretty great, man.
Yeah, that's an awesome feeling, I bet.
Thanks.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
All right, I got a question for Brian now. One thing I noticed definitely so I've been going through the catalog and Words with Pictures, and kind of anticipation for this, or Words for Pictures. And you talk a lot throughout your career about, finding truth in writing. And it's a theme that comes up a ton in Phenomena as well, very much as storytelling is sort of a form of currency, very literally in Phenomena. And there's, sort of this conversation that's going, and I don't think there's like a definitive answer, but it's sort of the true stories versus fantasies we tell ourselves, right? And it's an ongoing thing, right? The series isn't done. We're only on book 1. The concept of truth, against all odds, has come under fire in recent years, right? This idea of alternate truths, the realization, I think, for a lot of us, that truths do not match the way we thought they did. How have you find yourself, as you've been processing writing honestly and writing truth, how has that shifted, like going into Phenomena and kind of the way that you talk about it?
I don't know if it's so much shifted as it evolves. Like I keep using truth as an overall theme, the way like great power and great responsibility was the theme handed to us at Marvel. Like, and you can literally look at it from every possible angle and come up with different stories and perspectives on it. And since I've been on this truth kick, and I will say it was unrelated to the world and its relationship to truth, or social media's relationship to truth, but you can't help but look at that cracked funhouse mirror and acknowledge that truth is constantly under immediate duress, or it's constantly being challenged, and it always has been. By the way, this is not a social media a thing. This has always been the way. This is what Citizen Kane was about. Is that someone's always been in charge of who's telling the stories, and I got it into my head about how we live in a very capitalist society, and I'm not anti-capitalist. We are selling this book for money, but I was raised as a young man, and I got to see when that when greed became good in the 80s and kind of like kept its stranglehold on us for a while, like there's a part of our society that still looks at people like the Wolf of Wall Street and goes, I want to be that, like other people want to be Superman. And so I that's kind of tilted things, but the reality is that our value is our story. It is who we are, what we've done. That's what your value is as a human. And yes, you can all day long pretend it's how much stuff you've accumulated or what your net worth is, but it really isn't. It really is what you've done and what you and what the deal is with you. And so I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if that was the primary focus of how people related to each other in a society? That like tell me your story, and then and we get to experience each other. And also, it is the one thing, it is a direct um, reaction to is when I see people not listening to each other, and not taking in each other's perspectives and story, not hearing each other's pain when it's so obvious. It's right there and you won't look at it. That kind of stuff. I wanted to, like, if we're creating this new world, let's create a world where we really listen to each other, and how wonderful that would be. And we really appreciate each other's energy, and if we don't, we know why, because we're really talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry for
Mm-hmm.
that
Okay.
long answer, but it's and to still have fun with it. There's nothing here that's preachy. I'm not interested in it, but it does. I just wanted to see what the world would be like if yeah, your value is your story, which your story is what you've done
Yeah,
in
no,
the
it's a
end.
great concept. I mean, it's integrated very seamlessly too. Yeah, I mean, it's not
Thank
that's one thing I love about this work, especially, and we talked about the all ages nature of it, but like it is so not handholdy. I mean,
you.
there is so little exposition. It is not dragging us along. It is here's the world. We're all going to figure it out together, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
I think that's one thing that there's an assumption with something that is called all ages that like, oh, it must have to explain these things to kids. Kids are smart. They figure stuff out, right? And
I
that's
see it all the time.
yeah.
You asked me about the earlier question you asked about how my kids informed this, and absolutely, that's absolutely they pick it up right away. This in a world like that I guess I grew up with way too many movies where they tacked on the the not good Star Wars scroll to try to get
All
to
right,
redeem
yeah.
it, So yeah, yeah.
Definitely, definitely. No, it's awesome that it doesn't have to do that and pulls you in. Let's the book one is out. It's going to be out right now. We're going to have links in the show notes. Sounds like both of you are already way into book two
Hmm.
of
It's
what I
the
think
best. It's the
promises.
best. It's the best feeling. Sorry.
No, that's awesome. Like, yeah, you're
Yeah.
way ahead because you got ahead of time on this. What can you tease out without spoiling anything about what's to come in book two and kind of where it's going?
Well, you'll see right away in the first book that this book allows us to be kind of a road picture. It's they're walking around, they're exploring. It's an explorer's book, right? So we explore one area of this world, and with every page, I think you get little clues of hints of things that oh shit, this is Earth, this is our world. Like right away, like you get little hints and pieces, and you got to find out what area it is. And then in the second volume, they're going to a different place. They're going to a different part of the world. So, and every part of the world has a different feel to it. The phenomena that took hold changed everything, but every part is different. So we're going to go to a place, little London, England-ish. We're headed, and we'll see what's happened to that place. But it has allowed us to open up a series of brand new inventions. I will say we're very, very inspired by the original Star Wars trilogy in that Empire Strikes Back went dark. It's a little bit darker, and there's a fallout from the actions of the first movie, that everything gets a little more mature, a little bit more involved. And I was always a big fan of that they didn't repeat any of the locations or themes of the first Star Wars in the second one. It was all new designs and all new places. So that was we're gonna Empire Strikes Back the hell out of the second volume, and take all the characters to a new place and new threats. And particularly, I already surprised Andre with what happens with Bolden.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there-
Okay.
Oh yeah, you did. And by the way, I we just Brian sent me the because we had a foundation from volume 1, he sent me the script for volume 2 for the first chunk of the script. And like the first thing that I did was spending a week, I think, designing new characters, new places, all that stuff, and even stuff that came to my mind. And I sent all that stuff to Brian so he could riff off of it to keep writing while I'm drawing the first. And I can tell you, Brian, I finished penciling the first 26 pages. So I'm going to start thinking tomorrow.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's cool.
That's cool.
Well, and for the second volume, it was very important to me to try to keep a semblance of what made the first volume, the collaboration balance, so unique that you described early in this podcast. To keep that going for the second one, that I've seen behind the scenes sometimes where some special magic made the first thing, and then when it's time to do the second thing, everyone just tightens up and doesn't bring the magic to the second thing. So in this one, I said, well, back and forth that we're gonna do exactly how we did the first time with the second time, knowing full well what we're doing and how far we can take it. So with confidence, we go into.
Yeah, we didn't mechanize the process, to get. We just, like, Brian sent me the script, and there were, again, no descriptions. He had names for characters and for groups of characters and for places, but there was no description whatsoever in them. So I'm just drawing whatever I want again, and he writes whatever he wants.
Yeah.
So that's how we do it.
So far, so good. Yeah, it's working. It's working out. No, this was really a delightful read. I enjoyed the heck out of it, and I was excited. I'm excited for book 2. Definitely. Like I'm looking forward.
For people who don't know, this is this volume that we're talking about today is the first of 3 volumes that Abrams is going to be putting out over the next few years. So this is a series of graphic novels. So if you like the first one, there's more coming, and it does. By the end of the 3 volumes, you will find out what the phenomena was, and everything. All answers will be given.
Yeah, and the first volume is on sale exactly 1 week from now, so next Tuesday, on September 3rd.
Yeah, we'll put this. This should go up the day of release.
Mm-hmm.
This should go up the day of release. So we'll.
Hey, it's out today, Andre.
There we go. You got to get used to the time travel. All right, a couple final questions for both of you. Sure. Brian, you famously co-created Miles Morales, of course, star of Into the Spider-Verse and so many Marvel comics. Did you know that Andre co-created Miles Morhamus, the Ultimate Universe Spider-Ham? Were you aware of this connection?
I had forgotten that.
But it's so sad that this is how our collaboration ends. Oh, doing so well.
What?
Sorry to put an end to it here.
Yeah, you know what I'm sad about is the money that I received from Miles Morhamus is slightly less than Brian has been receiving from Miles Morales. Isn't it? Because I got 0.
There's still time. There's still time. Into the Spider-Verse 2. Who knows?
Yeah.
I was reading. I was going through the.
That's
the
a very
Marvel
good one.
Unlimited.
No one's brought that up. I actually don't think I put that.
I had forgotten that.
That's
Amazing. Glad I could bring that connection up.
Now that's all we're going to be talking about for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did. Yeah. No, it's something to behold. What else do you both have coming up that you want to plug? What other comics are coming out you want to make sure people check out? Andre, let's throw it to you first, please.
Oh yeah, as an artist, obviously I have less stuff coming on. Brian has like 100 books, so I'll get out of the way soon, fast. I have Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. So obviously, you have Volume 1 already out there. I did that with Rick Remender. It's still coming out. So like next week is a big week for me because we got September 13 Phenomena, Volume 1. 14, the finale of Righteous Thirst for Vengeance, issue 11. So it's the last one, and like a couple of months later, we'll get Volume 2. Also collecting the last 6 issues, so 5 issues on Volume 1, 6 issues on Volume 2, and it's like if you get Phenomena and Righteous Thirst, you'll get a good chunk of what I like to do and the way that I like to do comics. So absolutely check both books out, please.
Cool.
And I highly recommend that experience as well. I had it early on with the Righteous and Experience Phenomena, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's the same guy! This is amazing!" So I really, if you're a fan of Andre, this is a very exciting experience to have both things together.
Thank you.
So, All right, and for me, I have Jinx World is our publishing imprint and is at Dark Horse Comics, where we're putting out all kinds of new stuff, including right now our Yakuza comic Pearl with Michael Gatiss is on the stands, and also Joy Operations with Stephen Byrne. Also coming soon in November, it's on the cover of previews right now, is The Ones with Jacob Edgar. It's a brand new comedy that I hope everyone takes a look at. I'm really excited about. Also, Dark Horse is the home of all of our older stuff like Powers and Scarlet. And oh my God, the brand new printing of Torso. Look at that beautiful thing, matching with the brand new printing of Goldfish. Just beautiful. The beautiful job they've done on these brand new editions of our classic stuff. So if you want to see the books that got me to Miles and got us to Phenomena, check them out.
Awesome. I just I got a copy of Torso from my library, and Brian, I turned to like the middle sequence, and the pages just started falling out of the book. Like the binding was so it was so worn that I then had to puzzle everything together. I was like reconstructing Torso for you. So I'm glad there's
I'm
a
going
new
to.
volume.
I'm glad there's a new volume too. I'm going to take that as a huge compliment that someone got that aggressive with the book.
Warren, yeah, well
Yeah.
read, well read.
No,
copy
it
of
is. It's
Torso.
my favorite. It's like someone did this at Dragon Con. People come up with their perfectly slabbed comics, and I'm happy to sign them. But then someone comes up to you with a book that looks like they wiped their ass with it. It looks like it just looks like it's been through. So it escaped some kind of horrible situation, and it is the most flattering thing when someone comes up to a book that they've clearly read like a bunch of times. Right? It's the best feeling in the world. So I tend to focus on that and not the one part of the production I can't help, which is the glue. You can't be in charge of the glue. But there's a brand new version of Torso out right now, and I'm very happy that it's out there. So
Awesome,
thank you.
awesome. Well, Brian, Andre. Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I just want to throw out. I have a Substack. It's a newsletter that you can. We're going to have behind the scenes on everything that we're talking about today. And if you want to subscribe, that's where you get the best conversation with us about what we're doing and how we're doing it. It's the best version of the social media that we have right now.
Good. All right, Brian,
All right.
Andre, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. I very much appreciate you coming on. Again, we're going to have links to everything in the show notes. And of course, as always, you can always just check out the Best Comics 2022 list on CBH for a bunch of what we talked about here today, because it's going to be there all year. List is regularly updated as I read new good things.
Thank you.
No, I'm loving it. So yeah, thanks to both of you.